Hello, my name is Michelle Chamanga. Welcome to Scale PR and Marketing. Today we are going to be discussing financial management. Financial management is the strategic planning, organizing, directing, controlling of financial undertakings in an organization. It also includes applying management principles to financial assets of an organization, while also playing an important role in fiscal management. Next, we are going to discuss types of financial management. The first one is capital budgeting decision. Capital budgeting decision is the process of planning and managing a firm's long-term investments. In capital budgeting, the finance manager tries to identify profitable investment opportunities, that is, assets for which value of cash flow generated by the asset exceeds the cost of the asset. Evaluating the size, timing, and the risk of future cash flows, both cash inflows and cash outflows, is the essence of capital budgeting. A finance manager has to find the answers to the following questions. What should the size of the firm be? In which assets of project funds should be invested? Investments in which assets or projects should be reduced or discounted? Capital budgeting decision determines the fixed assets composition of a firm's balance sheet. Capital budgeting decision gives rise to operating risk or business risk. The second one is capital structure decision. A firm's capital structure or financial decision is concerned with obtaining funds to meet firm's long-term investment requirements. It refers to the specific mixture of long-term debt and equity, which the firm uses to finance its assets. The finance manager has to decide how much funds to raise, from which sources to raise, and when to raise. Different feasible combination of raising required funds must be carefully evaluated, and an optimal combination of different sources of funds should be selected. The optimal capital structure is one which minimizes the overall cost of capital and maximizes the firm's value. Capital structure decision gives rise to the financial risk of a firm. The third one is dividend decision. Dividend decision involves two issues: whether to distribute dividends and how much profit to distribute as dividends. A finance manager has to decide whether a percentage of the after-tax profit is to be retained in the business to meet future investment requirements, and what proportion has to be distributed as dividends among the shareholders. Should the firm retain all the profits or distribute all the profits, or retain a portion and distribute the balance? Proportion of profits distributed as dividend is called dividend payout ratio. The proportion of profits retained in the business is called the retention ratio. Finance manager here is concerned with determining the optimal dividend payout ratio, which maximizes the shareholders' wealth. However, the actual decision is affected by availability of profitable investment opportunities, firm's financial needs, shareholders' expectations, legal constraints, liquidity position of the firm, and other factors. The last one is working capital management decision. Working capital management is concerned with management of the firm's short-term assets or current assets, such as inventory, cash, and receivables, and short-term or current liabilities, which include creditors and bills payables. Assets and liabilities which mature within the operating cycle of the business or within 1 year are termed as current assets and current liabilities, respectively. Working capital management involves the following issues. What is the possible sources of raising short-term funds? In what proportion should the funds be raised from different short-term sources? What should the optimum level of cash and inventory? What should be the firm's credit policy while selling to customers? We're going to move on to the functions of financial management. The first one and the foremost one is estimating the amount of capital required. Business firms require capital for 1. Purchase of fixed assets. 2. Meet in working capital requirements. 3. Modernization and expansion of business. The financial manager makes estimates of funds required for short-term and long-term targets. Determining capital structure is the second function. Once the requirement of capital funds has been determined, a decision regarding the kind and proportion of various sources of funds has to be taken. For this, a financial manager has to determine the proper mix of equity and debt and short-term and long-term debt ratio. This is done to achieve the minimum cost of capital and maximize shareholders' wealth. The third one is choices of sources of funds. Before the actual procurement of funds, the finance manager has to decide the sources from which the funds are to be raised. The management can raise finance from various sources such as equity shareholders, preference shareholders, debenture holders, banks, and other financial institutions. The fourth function is procurement of funds. The financial manager takes steps to procure the funds required for the business. It may require negotiation with creditors and financial institutions, issue of prospectus, and etc. The procurement of funds is dependent on not only the cost of raising the funds, but also on other factors like general market conditions, choice of investors, and government policy. The fifth function is utilization of funds. The funds procured by the finance manager are to prudently be invested in various assets so as to maximize the return on investment. While taking investment decisions, management should be guided by three important principles: safety, profitability, and liquidity. The sixth one is disposal of profit or surplus. The finance manager has to decide how much to retain for plowing back and how much to distribute as dividends to the shareholders out of the profits of the company. The factors which influence these decisions include trend of earnings of the company, the trend of market price of its shares, the requirements of funds for the self-financing, the future programs, and so on. The seventh one is management of cash. Management of cash and other current assets is an important role of the finance manager. It involves forecasting the cash inflows and outflows to ensure that there is neither shortage or surplus of cash within the firm. Sufficient funds must be available for purchase of materials, payments of wages, and meeting day-to-day expenses. The final function is financial control. Evaluation of financial performance is an important function of a financial manager. The overall measure of evaluation is called return on investment. The other techniques of financial control and evaluation include budgetary control, cost control, internal audits, break-even analysis, and ratio analysis. The financial manager must lay emphasis on financial planning as well. Lastly, we are going to discuss the objectives of financial management. The first one is profit maximization. This is the main objective of financial management. The financial manager strives to achieve the optimum profit in the short-term and long-term course of business. The financial manager shall try to achieve as high profit as possible. The company makes a decent profit in the long run if the finance manager makes the proper decisions using the various methods and tools available. The second objective is wealth maximization. It means shareholders' value maximization. Wealth maximization means earning maximum wealth for shareholders. So, the finance manager tries to give maximum dividends to shareholders. The dividend declaration and payout policy are decided by the financial management. Dividend decisions include the proper dividend policy regarding the distribution and retaining of company profits. This is related to the performance of the company. better the performance, the higher the market value of shares. In a nutshell, the finance manager tries to maximize shareholders' value. The third objective is proper mobilization. Mobilization of finance is an important objective of financial management. It means utilizing effectively the sources of finance. The finance manager can manage various sources of funds such as shares, debentures, and after estimating the financial requirements, the finance manager must decide about the sources of finance. The fourth one is increases efficiency. Financial management tries to increase the efficiency of all sections of the company. Proper distribution of finance to all departments increases the efficiency of the entire company. The fifth one is proper estimation of total financial requirements. This means that the finance manager will be able to estimate the financial requirements of the company. He should be able to compute how much financing is required to start and run the business. He shall estimate the fixed and working capital requirements of the business. If not, there will be a shortage or surplus of finance. The finance manager shall use various factors like technology used by the company, the number of employees used, and the scale of operations and legal requirements. The sixth one is proper utilization of finance. The finance manager must make optimum utilization of finance. This can be done using various financial tools such as managing receivables, effective payment policy in hand, and better inventory management. The seventh one is maintaining proper cash flow. The finance manager shall ensure that there is regular supply of liquidity in the company, monitoring closely all the cash inflows and outflows, reducing the instances of underflow and overflow of cash. The finance manager is entrusted with the responsibility to maintain an optimal level of liquidity. Heavy cash flow improves the chances of survival and success of a company. The last one is survival of a company. The company must survive in competitive business world. Hence, the financial manager shall take all decisions intuitively. The big decisions shall be taken with the proper due diligence and consultancy with consultants. As you've seen, financial management plays an important role in a business.